So hello everyone and welcome to the fifth demo of our Java Spring Boot demo series. In this demo we will see about Spring Boot profiles and configuration. So in this demo we will learn about Spring Boot profile and its configuration. Profile in Spring Boot, so basically profiles in Spring Boot allows us to separate part of our application configuration so that we can use different settings for different environment, the different types of environments such as testing and production. So if I had to give you a real life example about Spring Boot profiles, Netflix is one of the examples, means analogy type of examples. Think of Spring Boot profiles like Netflix profile. So we know, like on Netflix you might have different profile for yourself, your family, your brother, your friends. So each profile has a personalized settings and recommendations and watch history. So similarly in Spring Boot profiles allows us to have different configuration for different environment. For example, the development environment might use local database while the production environment uses a cloud database. So while there are different type of profiles in Netflix, like for our brother and our, the main Netflix remains the same. Similarly, for different type of profiles in Spring Boot development and production, the main code remains the same. It just selects and actives the profile we select. So to go further into this, we need to create different type of profiles, configure them, uh, and then we will run a code which basically demonstrate that which profile is active at which time. So before we dive into code, let's start with a simple question. So why do we even need profiles in Spring Boot? Now think about any real world application. You just don't run it once and on your laptop. You call it a day, right? So usually you have multiple environments. For example, a development environment where you are building and testing features on your own machine. A testing or staging environment where QA engineers check the app before release, and a final, the production environment where real users are interacting with your system. Now here's the issue, each of these environments are different. So on your laptop you might be using an in-memory database like h2 because it's fast and light. In testing environment maybe you connect to a shared staging database, and in production of course you have a proper MySQL or a PostgreSQL server running on the secure host. So it's not just database, even things like API keys, logging level, caching strategies, and even email services differ from one environment to another. So the challenge is now, how do we manage all this different configuration without constantly rewriting our properties file every time we switch environments? So that's where the Spring Boot profile come into play. So a profile in Spring Boot is basically a way to tell the applications like, hey, like when I am running in this environment use this configuration, and when I am running somewhere else switch that configuration. Think of it like having different outfits for different occasions. You don't wear a business suit to gym, and you don't wear workout shorts to wedding. So in this same way your application can basically dress up differently on whether it is running in dev, test or production. So how does this work in practice? So well, Spring Boot gives us the flexibility to separate configuration into different files. For examples, you have to create files like application-dev.properties for development, application-test.properties for testing, and application-prod.properties for production. In each file you keep only the values that belongs to that environment. Then with just one setting, sometimes called spring.profile.active, you can tell Spring Boot which profile to use. So if I set spring.profile.active is equal to dev, the application picks up all the development configuration, and if I set it to prod, it switches to production configuration. No manual editing, no messy copy paste. And what's powerful about this is that the profile aren't limited to just property files, they also extend to your code. You can literally say load this bin only when the dev profile is active and load that bin only when prod is active. That way you are just not swapping values, you are swapping actual components of your application depending on the environment. So to sum it up, Spring Boot profiles are basically an environment management tool. They help you cleanly separate configurations, avoid human errors, and make your app flexible enough to run in multiple places without code change. So once you understand deploying, the different environment become much easier because you are no longer hacking your configure files. You are just telling Spring Boot when personally the app should which personality the app should use. So that's the big picture of Spring Boot profiles. They solve the problem of one app main environment in a clean and a structured way. So now let's actually get started on how to do this. First need to open our HTS4 IDE. So after opening HTS4, go to your project and here locate to source main resource, expand this, and here we can see the application.properties file. So this is a default application when we create the Spring Boot project using Spring Initializer. So this is basically common to all. So this basically Spring application.properties file will be used for telling Spring Boot that which dev environment we need to use. So we will type a command here and tell Spring Boot which environment we need to use, like dev, prod, or testing. So we need to create more application.properties file in here. So right click on source main resource, go to new and create a file under resources. So name this file. So we need to name this file application.dev.properties. Application hyphen dev.properties. So click on finish and we can see we have the our application.dev properties file inside this. So create one more dev file, application hyphen prod application hyphen prod dot properties. Click on So we might have entered a wrong spelling. Let's do again. Application hyphen prod dot properties. Make sure the spelling of properties is correct. Finish. So we have this three application files. Now if we need to active the application dev properties, we need to go to application properties, and we need to type command spring dot profiles active, and we need to give the name of the property, which is dev, so is equal to dev. So by doing this, we will active this applications inside the dev files. So when Spring Boot runs the project, it first looks into the application.properties file, then it's look for the active profile and merge its property. So after creating these two application files, we need to write its property inside. So inside application dev properties, we will write the following properties. So we will configure its server port to 8081. So we will configure its Spring data source URL to this one, and we will configure its logging level to so same with with application-prod properties. So we need to configure the similar type of settings in production.properties. So we will configure server port to 9090. We'll configure Spring database URL to Login level 2, login level dot root 2 error. So now we have configured the files. Now let's see how to active this profiles. So basically to active this profiles, go to our main application.properties, which is like inbuilt properties, and inside this to active the dev file we need to give command spring dot profile active. So is equal to, beside this, give the name of the profile which you want to active. So if I want to active dev profile, I will write dev, and if I want to active the production profile, I will write production. So in this way we have written dev, and we have activate the dev profile. So after this let's create a simple controller to show how this active profile reflects. So in our uh, test controller class, I will create a new class. I will name this class profile controller. So in this profile controller class, I will first write a basic REST API code which will print print which profile is active. So I will write a code quickly. So this is basically a controller code which will print which profile is currently active. So how this will work is it will fetch from application.properties which dev profile is active, and this math controller, in profile controller, it will print currently connected to which profile. So db url is the profile link. So let's run this project. So as we are running, for the first time after closing the HTS4, let's quickly do a clean package. Now let's do a spring-boot run So now let's test this using Postman. Our Postman application, and type a URL pointing toward this. So it will be http hyphen slash slash localhost, our port number, which is 8081 slash profiles. Make sure that the spelling is correct. uh, profiles, profiles. Okay. So in currently application.properties, we have activated the dev properties. Now let's send this. As you can see, it shows currently connected to db jbl mysql dev.db. So which is inside the dev properties profile. So currently connected to dev db. Now let's switch to production properties. Let's terminate this process first. In application.properties, where the dev, we will change it to production. Now let's restart the app and run it in again in Postman. So it is not, uh, maybe because in application.properties we have given server port 9090 and here we have 8081. So maybe we need to change in URL 9090. as we can see, we can see our prod profile DB on server 9090 profiles. So as we can see, after switching profiles, we can switch profiles easily by changing the active profiles in application.properties. For like we did, we changed the profile spring.profile.active is equal to dev to spring.profile.active is equal to production. So this application will pick up settings from application production.properties. So to summarize this, Spring Boot provides profile a clean way to manage multiple environment configuration instead of changing the same file again and again. We just create separate files for each profiles and switch them when we need it. This make our project more maintainable and production. So that was it for this demo. We will meet in the next demo.